Hey y'all, welcome back to It's Your Story with Lori. I have my good friend Kim with me, and we are going to be going over her individual information as she gives us a brief synopsis of what's been going on with her. Um, we may not have a lot of time as we started our video prior to recording, but we'll see how long the recording lasts. Does that sound good, Kim?
Sure.
Okay. So Kim was born on September 7th, and she is a Virgo, and she has an incredible birth chart. Kim, do you want to give like anybody who's listening some information about you so then we can kind of compare it to your chart?
Like what kind of information, Lori?
Your story, like give a little synopsis of anything you'd like to explain about your story. Like anything surface, you can be general, but we can talk about like how
My
we
life
discussed.
story, like the trauma and
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
So I lost my mother to a drunk driver. She was a nurse. It was Christmas. I was 9 and my sweet little sister was 7. And as a 9-year old, I was already very intuitive and I knew that it was a really bad idea that my father was in charge. So I became hypervigilant in codependency with my sister, which set me up for my future. And this process of doing the trauma work and evolving has allowed me to help my husband become the better version of himself with 6.5 years of sobriety from the interventionist that I hired that encouraged that situation. Our children were 14 and 12 at the time. My oldest was my daughter, and she was at the youngest age she could be involved in the intervention. So at 14, she started learning about the dark secret in her family that no one spoke about and started her journey of healing. Um, being in her father's intervention. And since then, we've been to Family Week with him in rehab and did some powerful work, which is aligned with me doing my work, being that my trauma would be the biggest threat to my husband's sobriety, as well as the way that it was affecting my life. This was a prescription from the interventionist that I would have to do trauma work to
Mhm.
support my husband's sobriety. So I did manage to get through high school. My dad's first girlfriend had a pony, which I believe saved my life. My
Hmm.
sister and I became good enough riders that we could ride in a local show barn and help her sell and show ponies.
Hmm.
Didn't have enough money to own stuff of our own, but we had this working student environment that was magic for me and my sister at the time. She's not in horses now. So I got my daughter into horses, and now it's basically riding her horse is my therapy, which I
Hmm.
recognize many ways compares to life with resilience because you've got bad days and good days on a horse. Right now, he's 7 months lame. So that's resilience to get through it because it makes you want to quit. Recognizing all of the bad things that happened in my life became superpowers for me, and just wanting to learn more about your version of perception on that, Lori, with the invisible
Well,
garment
right, there's a lot of
concept.
different layers. Yeah, like we Kim and I before we started recording, we were talking about Connie Kaplan's The Invisible Garment placements with different degrees in Kim's chart, and we were discussing a couple of different placements of focus where Kim felt they were spot on. So I will always consistently recommend the Invisible Garment work. It's a wonderful, wonderful resource to really like open up into like defining yourself, understanding, just being. I would say just being like able to settle into who you are as a blueprint. And that's why I like the numbers where we get the birth chart from, because we can sit here and look at different type of mathematical placements and see how they all intermingle to make us so unique, because each of us is this unique individual signature. And like I was like you were saying with the trauma history, you've got Pluto right on your ascendant, which is the easternmost point where the sun was when you were born. So your rising sign. So rising, you have, let's see, what was your rising? You're a rising Virgo, and you got, remember we talked about you have the sun in the 12th house with that intuitiveness. Remember, and then the invisible garment kind of denotes that with that sun in ecstasy is like you have that connectivity to the beginning of the energy that we all are, like the energy that just keeps like 15 billion years of recycling energy. Is that what it said? That's
It,
amazing. Like it's
it's insane.
amazing, right? And
Yes.
so like it's almost as if like our blueprint, everything on your chart, and I'm good like because we're talking right now, but at some point video wise, I'd like to get a, and I keep saying this, so hopefully it'll actually happen. A way to put the actual chart on the video screen. We tried with a couple of the first episodes and it was just a haphazard thing. Um, However, your chart has an effect where you've got now, if people are listening there and you're following astrology and you understand the house placements, with our first house being where the rising starts. So Kim, your first house is Virgo, starts at 18 degrees of Virgo, and right there at 18 degrees of Virgo is Pluto. It sits right on your ascendant and it's conjunct at 19 degrees with Uranus. Now, Uranus being the power of unexpected change and disruption, ruled by Aquarius, it's almost like aloof and it's not seemingly cold, but it's almost like this is what happens in life. We know life is going to happen. We all know this. We know it's here. We know there's no getting, we all know the destination for every one of us. It's the journey that we're on. But sometimes the journey that we're on denotes these underworld journeys and times of darkness in our personal experience. And it would show me in your chart because you've got Virgo in the rising and you've got Pisces in your descendant, the opposite. And that's where Chiron, that wounded healer, small exoplanet we also talked about before, and it's conjunct with your Saturn, the way you see the world. So you see the world, it would be like through this. I wouldn't. It's almost as like if it's through a filmy lens, kind of like fog sometimes,
Hmm.
right? And that's why I think having your actions being in a grounding sign of Earth, and also your love of horses, and that being a healing part of your life, it makes sense that it would be what you like to do in your first house. All Virgo. I am. This is part of who you identify yourself with or as. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yes.
And and then that moon in the ninth house in Gemini. So having, let's see, the moon, an active mentality with perhaps a tendency to be nervous and high strung, likely to be glib of tongue and a love of chatter. You must be aware of superficiality since the moon represents childhood experiences. Possibly there were two sides to your early life, right? You're shrewd and versatile, but you can be overly critical at times. You can also be hard on yourself. You like to express your opinion and tend to react to situations with thinking rather than with direct action. What do you think about that?
I mean, it feels like you've just taught me that I was actually built for this life instead of the way that I've been thinking about it was that this life made me what I
Right.
am. So I was built to be the black sheep and to be the generational changer for both sides of my children's family, my side, and there's alcoholism on both sides.
Yes.
And I have always felt like I was swimming upstream, bouts of deep depression over the course from 18 through my 30s, until I found the GAPS diet for my son, into my 40s. And now the healing piece has helped me eliminate depression and change my way of thinking. But I still was operating under the concept that my existence in this body, this
Hmm.
57 years, formed me to turn me into this champion for my family. But what you have taught me today, which is the most powerful thing I've ever heard, and it's going to change the way that I pursue everything, was that I was built for this life in birth, in conception. And I have the intuition and all of the things, including the nervous and high strung energy, to make what has happened happen in the direction of evolution for my people and growing into a more emotionally stable contributing to community and society, humans, which
Yeah.
was my goal. And I always thought I was too broken to do it. And that first baby, when I held her, I recognized that I had no choice. But also in her birth, I felt certain that my mother loved me on a cellular level when she was born. Of course, my
Yes.
mother loved me. There are no options. So these little glimpses from the universe like that have done healing work, but they've also helped direct me in my choices. And then
Yeah.
I'm seeing that they were just basically hints from my soul
Hmm.
because I was built
Oh, I
for
love
all.
that. I love
That is
that. And
mind
hints from your soul.
boggling.
It's also in the ninth house. Okay. So visionary philosophy, no wonder you want to expand. That is expansion. If this is the best part about this, Kim. You've got moon in Gemini but in the house of Sagittarius. That's like it's in the house where expansion could be, but Gemini is locality, so you can do it like at home. You're changing it at home, but you're doing it expansively into the ether. Isn't that
Yes.
amazing? It's like
Yes.
it's happening, like it starts here, but it's also like it's here, and you're expanding everything. And I think that's just beautiful and amazing.
And
I
it's what we're here to do, and then we're all at different levels, right? And
Yeah. Hold on. I'm just seeing where your moon is.
wow.
I think it's a 7 degrees. It might be 7 degrees.
You keep saying sevens, so I've known my whole
Yes,
life
7 degree moon. Remember, I didn't even, okay,
number.
so yes, 7 right? If you're born on the 7th, and if you're born
I
at
was born
7:07,
on this, Lori, I was born on the 7th at 7:07 p.m.
and
Okay. And
what's
in
really strange?
the seventh grade, I had a little boyfriend, pass him in the hall and wave. He was number
Mhm.
7 on the varsity JV football team. So from the 7th grade on, I knew sevens were a lucky number for me, but I don't know
It,
all the power that they
okay,
have.
so it's a it's a moon in 7 degrees. 7 degrees is generosity. So it makes sense that your inner world is defined by 7. So see, that's like you almost like I want to say your energy generously came here to this lifetime. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like you're giving of yourself generously to be in this life and to experience all of these things because it's your inner world that's coming to the outer world for the world. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. And that is how I feel, but I've never put those words to it.
It's like I see these, like it's a vision that I see, like what is in here is you want to you are generous within, and consistently you're emoting that. And I think oftentimes when that happens, especially in that locality, sometimes even that, and I think we've had this discussion, sometimes like the local people, the neighborhood people, see you going to the long distance, and they if they're not kind of expanded, they will take that and project their own stuff onto you because they're not going in directions with you.
Well, that's everyone in the world, right?
Hmm.
Everyone I encounter. I feel I can identify projection more now with the layers of healing that I've done. And that includes 43 days of residential trauma work in Tennessee at that wonderful place I've told you about on site. Um, Now I can recognize projection in my younger years when I was drowning in depression and struggling to know who I was and what I was and reacting to everything. I didn't recognize projection as anything, but of course that's me. What's wrong with me? This person's verbal vomiting on. It's got to be something I did. And now I've moved to a more powerful place of knowing it has nothing to do with me.
Yeah.
um and that changes the world. But then if you start to think that these people that do trigger you are like shining a flashlight on something that you need to learn more about and you need to learn how to manage, it's lighten it up when you're triggered. That map is something that I've followed with my gut, but I didn't know in my mind that I was doing it. So I wasn't being intentional with it. Now I'm able to imply the intentionality. And generous is to a fault. I am. And I catch myself because of the codependence. I have to catch myself and rein back sometimes because it's not my job to be generous in some ways in the world. It's my job to be generous with love and things like that. But it goes up to even financial stuff. So
Do
I
you want
can
to hear
see
what that degree is? Want to hear what that what the invisible garment says that degree is for moon and
how,
generosity?
yeah.
It's okay. It says you are a master at giving and receiving. In your most innate self, you know the absolute necessity of balancing the two, not only in your daily life, but in your very being. As you give, you receive. Consciousness of both the giving and receiving is important to assure a stability in your mental, physical, and emotional bodies. Some people are so blinded by what they do not have that they absolutely miss acknowledging what they do have. This will only be the case for you if you get out overly stressed and lose your perspective. You brought
Yes.
generosity with you into this incarnation as a safety net, as a guide or a plumb line to help you keep accurate measurement of your growth. Generosity is such second nature to you that you may not have given it much thought.
Oh, it's that's so true. I feel like you're looking inside my soul.
I'm just looking at the book where it's like this again. It's this the basicness is that we're all connected. I'm just gonna like take a little. I'm screenshotting this here, send that to you too. But oops, sorry, I said the wrong one.
So that is I use gratitude to survive now. And when I'm losing my shit, excuse me if
Mhm.
I can't say that, but
No, no.
if I'm having a
Say it.
bad day and I'm spinning out and I'm losing it, I go back to I've lost my sight of gratitude and I go back to gratitude. And in my hardest days, sometimes with my husband when he was drinking and the kids were little, some days all I could find was I was healthy enough to breathe and get my children from point A to B. They were healthy and I had a car that wasn't going to drop, leave us stranded on the side of the road because abandonment's a
Mhm.
big issue for me. We had a
Mhm.
home and electricity and all of that. And that's what I was grateful for. And it was a lot more than that, but I couldn't see it because I was struggling, right? So now I can pull it all the way through. I mean, we're 22 years married on Friday and we are fighting so hard to make this work. And as our therapist said, you're the unsung heroes, people fighting so hard with no skills. And even if I just had this map that you're drawing for me, I would have had a skill set that would have empowered me because this is very powerful information.
And that's why I love that it all kind of combines. There's even PhD who psychologist who talks about your planets intermingled with your psychology, like how your placements are, everything. And something you just said, it just slipped my mind, but it knocked that into my head that we've come here to be who we wanted to be. And what we do with that is when we tune ourselves back into, you know, our energies. There was something about that, but that's Dr. Jennifer Freed, and she's amazing. Oh, it's your personal plan. What is it called? I'll have to think of it later. She's got a couple of great books that I would love to promote, but I just don't know what they are. Just right this second, they're on my Audible. Bear with me. I'm new at this. Okay. Map
So,
to Your Soul.
Lori,
That's it.
this
You just
stuff,
said it, the word a map. So the book's called A Map to Your Soul. That's why it rang into me.
a map to
Yeah.
your
A
soul.
Map to Your Soul is by Jennifer Freed. If you I'll give you my login later and you can listen to it on my Audible. But she also, I'm sure that'll get taken out. What is this here? She also has another book. I think it's your I forget. But either way, the one about your map, A Map to Your Soul, is where I really was like, thank you. There's some way, some others out there who are feeling that our psychology is intermingled with like our entire energy and what we've like blueprinted can be done here. So I think that is absolutely beautiful, like
Yeah.
gorgeous when folks can connect with
Powerful.
like I feel it in my nervous system and I get very excited and I
Yep.
get giddy. I think I remember even Connie saying you get so excited when other people see that they are who they are. Oh, you mean
Yeah.
it? Oh, like oh.
Yeah.
Like okay.
It's
So I can
so
own myself.
powerful,
Like I
Lori.
own
I
it.
had no
And like
idea.
that's that accountability of like this is me. And I'm choosing to expand it. It's like breathing, you know, inhale, exhale, reconstruction, deconstruction, expansion, contraction. It's all of like the breathing of the universe. That's what we're doing, because each breath into us lets us drive around these bodies just a little bit longer, you know? I think
Yes.
that's the goal. How much can we get done while we're here and sift through all that's available and that we want to do? And I think I was even expressing to you the other night, that's where I feel sometimes there's that trappedness where I there's that one element, but then I have reflected a little bit later. That's like part of the narrative,
Yeah.
the control
Yep.
narrative. And once we can
Let go.
let go and let God, like, but that's
Yep.
the divinity within us. Like if we just trust and have that faith that yes we can, yes we can, yes we can, and like the little engine that could, I think I can, I think I can.
Exactly. And
Love
on
that guy.
site taught me a phrase that changed my life: trust the process. And in AA and other
Mhm.
recovery programs, they
Their mantra.
say every day was needed to
Mhm.
get to this
Yeah.
place, and
And keep coming
trust the
back. It works if you
process.
work it. Everything works
Yes.
if you work it. Yeah.
Yep.
Work it. Work it. What does work it mean? What does it mean to you? You're working your negative program. Why do you want to work a better one for yourself? Like, does it work for you? You don't like it, but it works because it keeps you safe. That's what the everything does. Like our systems figure out how to keep us best running so we can stay alive. You know, that's it.
Well, but
Survival.
you need to move from survive to thrive. So I did a
Right,
lot of
right,
decades
right.
in survive, and I'm ready to thrive. Have a
That's right.
beautiful family. My
Yes,
husband has a
do.
beautiful life. I have been doing my work. My son is in a therapeutic boarding school doing his work at 17. I'm thrilled to help that child at this
I
age
love
in
your
his
story.
life.
This is a great story.
And we're moving to thrive. It's very uncomfortable. It is literally like the caterpillar bursting through the chrysalis
You
to
got to break
become
a
the
few eggs
butterfly.
to make an omelet, right?
And you're
Yes,
going to be rolled up in a gooey mess
again and
for a
again.
period of
Yes.
transformation.
And it's
It's
fun to come out of it and
seed
like look at your
sprout
beautiful self.
bursting through the hull of the seed and ripping up through the soil to the sun to grow into a beautiful flower. It's that uncomfortable. It's like shedding a skin. And
Ooh.
people resist change because it's uncomfortable. But when I feel uncomfortable because of change now, I'm Pavlov theoried up to. I go for it because I want the change. I want what's on the other side of that hard work. There's so much joy in this
Yeah,
world, in this life, if you make it. And
that's
doing our
right.
work is the best thing
I
we
love
can
that
do
you said
for our
joy.
children, which is absolutely what I want to do. The best thing possible for my kids is to do my work and become a better person and a more evolved person and understand myself more.
Mm.
That's the best thing I can do.
I love it.
And it
I
also
love it.
feels good. But
Hey, well, we're wrapping up here with the time left, but it's been such a wonderful, wonderful story. Thank you for sharing it with us. I appreciate you coming here. I love talking to you about these things. And thanks for joining us.
thank you,
Okay.
Lori. That was
You're
excellent.
so welcome. You're so welcome. So I want to thank you all for coming and keep coming back because it works if you work it. Okay, now I'm gonna like do this. That's out. So it's gonna the thing's gonna spit us out of the Zoom room in about a minute. I will call you back and we can talk on the FaceTime if you want. I have to leave for the office in like 30 minutes, but
Okay. Yeah, let's wrap it up because I've got a couple questions.
okay. So
Number one, are you doing this for money?
no, not yet. Well, probably I think it's just because the network is just started. I don't know. I don't think so.
Can't,
It's fine
I
though.
mean,
I love
this
it.
feels like a lucrative, we need to talk about that piece. This feels like a
Okay.
lucrative place for you to go. Um, so you want me to refer friends to you, and I would
We
say
I want
have
them to come on the podcast too. This
be
is where
on
I'd
the
like, oh yeah.
podcast with, I love the name, and I remembered you telling me and loving it, but I had forgotten, it's your
I
story
think I
with
say it
Lori.
differently. Yes, I said, "Tell your story, Lori. It's your story with Lori." It's all about the story. It's all about your story, and I'm
And this
Lori.
would be a reading of the charts.
Yeah, I want to get their information, and then I'll plug it into those different little I know the invisible garment. I have the access to it to read from it. I mean, I haven't. I'm like I don't know it like they know, but I have this knowledge of like the